Usually when you talk about looking through a microscope, there is this baseline expectation of absolute scientific precision.
Right. You expect it to be very clinical.
Exactly. You expect the experience to be cold, rational, basically binary. You put a glass slide on the stage, you peer through the lens at a drop of blood, and you expect to see the building blocks of life.
You're looking for red blood cells, white blood cells, plasma.
Yeah, you expect to see biology.
Yeah.
But today's source material strips away that biology entirely.
It really does.
When you look through the microscope of Jeff Lindsay's novel, Darkly Dreaming Dexter, you do not see cells. You look deep into that drop of blood and you see a void. You see this grinning, cold, quiet thing looking right back at you. So today we are doing a deep dive into the source material. We're exploring a psychological landscape that is completely terrifying, precisely because it hides right in the middle of that neat, quantifiable scientific world.
It is the absolute definition of a diagnostic nightmare. I mean, whether you are a longtime fan of the acclaimed Netflix adaptation or, someone coming to this fresh with an interest in forensic psychology and character study, this is fascinating.
Oh, absolutely.
What we are dealing with here is a world where the monster wears a lab coat. The science is just camouflage for something ancient and hungry.
Right.
Our mission today is to examine the internal architecture of Dexter Morgan, purely from his perspective. This isn't a textbook on criminology looking from the outside in.
No, we are locked inside his head.
Exactly. We are inside the head of a meticulous, blood-obsessed serial killer who hides in plain sight by hunting other killers.
Okay, let's unpack this, because to really understand Dexter, you first have to understand the entity that drives him.
Right.
And the incredibly strict rule book that keeps him out of the electric chair.
Yeah, those are the two pillars of his existence.
I was reading through the source material, and Dexter constantly refers to this thing inside him as the dark passenger. He calls it a cold, quiet watcher, or the moon dancer. He describes it as this laughing entity that brings what he simply calls the need.
Capital N.
Yes, capital N. So how should we, from a psychological standpoint, understand this? I mean, is it a split personality? Is it a hallucination?
That is the perfect place to start, actually, because the language he uses to describe the dark passenger is so specific.
It's very detached.
It is. He talks about it as if it is a completely separate being. He literally says, the me that was not me.
Wow.
Clinically speaking, what you are looking at here is a severe form of psychological dissociation, which is usually born out of extreme early childhood trauma.
Well, he's splitting himself to cope.
Exactly. By separating his homicidal urge into a distinct, externalized entity, this dark passenger, Dexter, manages to maintain his daytime facade. It is an extreme coping mechanism.
So the passenger is the one who demands blood, and Dexter views himself just as the vessel who has to manage it.
Right, he has to placate it. It's related to how some predators use compartmentalization, but Dexter takes it to an almost mythological level.
And we see exactly how he manages that need right in the opening scene of the book with Father Donovan.
Oh, that scene sets the tone perfectly.
It really does. This guy is a corrupt priest. He's teaching music to children at an orphanage in Homestead, Florida, but secretly preying on them.
And the text notes, Dexter has been watching him for 5 weeks.
5 weeks. I mean, for 3 of those weeks, Dexter knew the priest, quote-unquote, belonged to the dark passenger. That level of patience is just staggering to me.
It's highly unusual.
If this need is a roaring physical pressure like he describes, how does he sit on it for weeks?
Because the dark passenger brings the chaotic urge, but Dexter imposes rigid, obsessive discipline over it.
He micromanages his own monster.
That's a great way to put it. This is the hallmark of what the FBI's behavioral science unit would classify as a highly organized killer.
As opposed to disorganized.
Right. Disorganized killers strike out of sudden rage or opportunity or psychosis. They leave messy scenes. Organized killers are methodical.
Like Dexter watching the priest interact with a little girl, handing out hugs, playing the benevolent caretaker.
Yes, and Dexter is coiled to strike. But there is a janitorial minivan nearby.
Right. A normal killer, driven by pure impulse, might just risk it.
They would. But Dexter waits for the janitor to finish his cigarette and go inside. He internally attributes it to luck, but it is actually his obsessive need for total environmental control.
He needs perfection. So he pops up in the backseat of the priest's car, wraps a 50-pound test fishing line around his neck to control him without leaving a mark, and puts on a white silk mask.
So clinical.
But he doesn't just kill Father Donovan in the car. He drives him out to this crumbling, abandoned house in the swamp. And it's all because of what's outside that house. The vegetable garden.
The 7 mounds of earth.
Exactly. Dexter forces the priest to look at what he has done. He has exhumed the bodies of the 7 small orphan boys Donovan murdered.
He laid them out on rubber shower sheets.
Yeah, in straight lines. The sensory details Lindsay uses here are so grim, but what really stuck out to me was Dexter's internal monologue.
It's completely devoid of typical human reaction.
Yes. He isn't sad for the boys. He complains about how dirty the bodies are. He says he tried to clean them off, but they've been in the dirt too long, and it offends his sense of neatness.
It bothers him aesthetically, not morally.
Right. So why go through this elaborate theatrical display if he doesn't actually feel any empathy for the victims?
This goes to the core of how Dexter views himself. He tells the priest, "Meet your unmaker."
Unmaker. That's such a specific word.
It is. Dexter doesn't view himself as a murderer in this moment. He views himself as a cosmic janitor.
Wow.
He is removing a monstrous mess from the world. He forces Donovan to face the reality of his crimes, not out of a sense of human empathy. As you noted, Dexter explicitly states in his internal monologue that he is hollow.
Completely empty inside.
Right, but he does it because Donovan has violated the order of things. Donovan is a sloppy, dirty monster who buried children in the mud. Dexter considers himself a neat monster.
So he is asserting his superiority over the sloppy monster.
Exactly.
But that neatness, that entire system of rules that allows Dexter to function and justify his actions, it didn't come from nowhere.
No, it has an origin.
It comes entirely from one man, Harry Morgan.
Yeah.
His foster father.
Yeah.
A former Miami cop.
Yes.
And this is where I really have to push back on the narrative, because Harry is often framed as this guiding light. But looking at the psychology here, is Harry actually the villain of this story?
That is a phenomenal question. Harry is arguably the most complex and morally ambiguous psychological force in this entire narrative.
He really is.
Let's look at the facts. Harry is a highly decorated, straight-arrow police officer who adopts a 3-year-old boy after some unspecified, horrific, bloody trauma.
Right, and Harry figures out very early that Dexter isn't a normal kid.
He sees the signs.
There's this chilling flashback to a starry night camping trip on Elliott Key. Dexter's 14. Harry pulls out a hip flask, takes a drink, which Dexter notes is incredibly rare for his strict dad, and confronts him.
About the dog.
Yeah, Harry found the grave where Dexter buried the neighbor's dog, Buddy, a noisy dog that kept Dexter's dying, cancer-stricken foster mother awake.
And Harry knows there are other animal bones in that grave, too.
Right.
Animal cruelty, especially in a localized, secretive manner, is one of the classic components of the McDonald triad.
Which is what, exactly?
It's a set of childhood behaviors historically linked by psychiatrists to later violent tendencies. Harry recognizes this. He's a cop. He's seen this before.
So he asks 14-year-old Dexter, "Do you hear a voice?"
And Dexter admits he feels something watching him, laughing.
Yeah, and Harry asks if he ever wanted to kill a person. Dexter says yes. And when Harry asks why he didn't, Dexter's answer is what seals his fate.
It's the turning point.
He didn't refrain because of empathy or morality or fear of God. He refrained because he didn't want Harry to be disappointed in him.
It's all about the rules of the father figure. He just wants approval.
So Harry sits him down under the stars, and instead of saying, "We are going to get you the best psychiatric help in the world," Harry says, "10 years ago, I would have wanted you in an institution."
But now Harry has decided the urge cannot be cured. The trauma got into Dexter too early.
Right. So what does this good moral cop do? He trains him.
He does.
Harry says, "You can channel it, control it, choose what or who you kill. There are plenty of people who deserve it."
And to answer your earlier question about whether Harry is the villain, what's fascinating here is how Harry weaponizes Dexter's pathology.
Weaponizes it.
Yes. Harry is a cop deeply frustrated by a justice system that constantly lets predators walk free on technicalities. He sees his sociopathic foster son not as a psychiatric tragedy to be healed, but as a tool to be utilized.
That is so dark.
It is. He creates the code of Harry. It demands absolute certainty of guilt, meticulous disposal of evidence, leaving no traces, and faking a normal life to avoid suspicion.
It's like realizing your child is a pyromaniac, so instead of taking them to therapy, you teach them how to do controlled burns for the fire department.
That's a brilliant analogy.
You just hand them an axe and say, "Only burn the houses I tell you to." I mean, is the code really about vigilante justice? Or is it just a forensic survival guide?
Oh, it is entirely a survival guide dressed up in the language of justice to make it palatable.
Right, to make it sound noble.
Exactly. The code is primarily designed to keep Dexter out of the electric chair. It's an operating system for a predator. Think about the psychological conditioning Harry employs.
He uses Dexter's need for approval.
Yes, he uses Dexter's desire for paternal approval to instill rules that override the chaotic impulses of the dark passenger.
And we see the ultimate, horrifying culmination of that conditioning when Harry is dying in a hospice.
That scene is so pivotal.
Harry is in absolute agony, and he realizes his nurse is intentionally overdosing patients. She's a mercy killer, an angel of death.
And Harry pulls Dexter close and gives him his final ultimate permission.
He says, "Stop her. Like the monkey," referring to a feral monkey they had hunted together as practice.
Right.
Harry unleashes Dexter on a human being for the very first time from his deathbed.
That moment in the hospice is Dexter's true psychological birth as a serial killer. The dark passenger finally takes the wheel, but it does so with the father's blessing.
And notice how Dexter describes the aftermath in his internal monologue.
He notes how clean he feels.
Yes, clean and controlled. The killing works the knots out of his dark schemata. It satisfies the passenger, but more importantly, it honors Harry.
But the real tragedy here, if you can call it that, for someone who commits murder is Dexter's complete internal emptiness.
Right, he states point blank that he is hollow.
He cannot feel love, not even for Harry. He literally says, if only I was capable of love, how I would have loved Harry.
Which is so bleak.
It is. He follows the code not out of a genuine emotional bond, but because Harry was right about how to survive. He is a predator studying the herd, mimicking human behaviors, just to blend in.
Which is a brilliant segue into how he manages that mimicry in his professional life. Because he doesn't just blend into the herd, he hides in the very building designed to catch people like him.
The irony is incredible.
It really is. Let's look at his career. He works as a blood spatter pattern analyst for the Metro-Dade police in Miami. And there is this massive, almost absurd irony here. Dexter works with blood all day. He analyzes it. He measures the arterial spurting. He uses luminol. He strings up the primary spatter angles.
It's highly technical work.
How does that actually work, by the way? Why is someone who is obsessed with blood studying its patterns so clinically?
To understand this, we have to look at the physics of blood spatter analysis, which is a real, highly complex forensic discipline. When blood leaves the body, it is acted upon by physical forces: gravity, velocity, surface tension. A drop of blood falling straight down at terminal velocity will leave a perfectly round stain.
Right, like a perfect circle.
But if a victim is struck with a baseball bat, the blood is cast off at an angle and a high velocity, creating elongated stains that point in the direction of travel.
So the shape tells a story.
Exactly. By measuring the width and length of these stains, an analyst like Dexter can use trigonometry to determine the exact angle of impact. And by stringing lines from multiple stains, they can pinpoint the exact origin in three-dimensional space.
So he is literally bringing mathematical order to violence.
Precisely. Dexter craves order out of chaos. He internally complains about how sticky, hot, awful, and messy blood is in its natural state.
It states messy kills.
He despises them. The text mentions a recent kill of his own, a child rapist named Jaworski at a construction site.
Oh yeah, that one was a disaster for him.
Because Dexter was almost interrupted by a security guard, he had to rush it. He slashed the guy's throat, blood went everywhere, and Dexter found it deeply unsatisfying, untidy, and frankly, offensive to his sensibilities.
So he doesn't do his day job to catch bad guys?
Not at all. He does it to force the nasty, chaotic bloodstains to behave properly on his charts. He wants total control over the fluid of life.
Which brings us to a crime scene that completely shatters his reality.
He dumpster.
Yes. Imagine you are Dexter. You need blood to make sense of the world. And you're called to a new crime scene on the Tamiami Trail.
It's behind the Cacique Motel, this dilapidated area full of neon and despair.
Right. A sex worker has been chopped into pieces and left in neatly wrapped garbage bags in a dumpster. The medical examiner is there, the cops are there, and then Dexter's colleague, the crime lab tech Vince Masoka, delivers a line that just stops Dexter cold.
Right before we get to that line, it's really worth examining Dexter's relationship with Masuoka because it highlights Dexter's entire worldview.
Masuoka is a fantastic foil for Dexter.
He really is. Dexter notes that Vince has this bright, fake picture book smile.
And Vince makes these wildly inappropriate, dirty jokes at grim crime scenes. Nobody really laughs, but nobody gets mad either. It's just accepted as his quirk.
And Dexter feels a profound kinship with Masuoka because of this.
Really? A kinship?
Well, he doesn't like him as a friend, but he recognizes him as a fellow actor. He sees Masuoka as another guy who is just pretending to be human, making these ritualistic social gestures just to fit in.
Like wearing a mask?
Exactly. It connects to psychiatrist Hervey Cleckley's concept of the mask of sanity. Psychopaths often observe and mimic human emotions without feeling them.
And Dexter assumes Masuoka is doing the exact same thing.
Right, that Masuoka's inappropriate humor is just a poorly calibrated mask. Dexter relates to people entirely based on their level of detachment.
That makes so much sense.
Yep.
And it is Masuoka who looks at Dexter at the dumpster and drops the bombshell. There's no blood here, Dex.
Not a single drop.
No blood at all. That phrase just echoes in Dexter's head. He gets lightheaded. He says it feels like a missing piece to something he didn't know was incomplete.
It's an aesthetic connection for him.
Here's where it gets really interesting. It's like a master sommelier being obsessed with a glass of pure distilled water.
That's a great way to look at it.
Dexter, the guy who relies on the physics of blood to find order, is suddenly infatuated with a killer who completely erases blood from the equation. I mean, how is that even physically possible? How do you chop up a human body and leave zero blood?
That is what makes this killer so terrifying to the police and so mesmerizing to Dexter. It requires extreme forensic countermeasures.
Like what?
Well, the killer would have to completely exsanguinate the victim while the heart is still pumping.
Drain them completely.
Right, likely hanging them upside down and severing the carotid artery in a controlled environment like a clinical kill room.
Okay, but even then, wouldn't there be seepages when you cut the pieces?
Yes, which means to prevent any post-mortem leakage from the tissues when the body is sectioned, the killer is likely using a flash freezing process to crystallize the cells.
So they freeze the body solid, cut it with an industrial saw, and wrap it while it's still frozen.
Exactly. It shows a level of premeditation, medical knowledge, and equipment access that is far beyond a standard street murder.
It's so meticulous.
And we have to look at the specific forensic details of the body parts in that dumpster because they are communicating a message.
Right. The medical examiner, Angel Batista, points out a bizarre inconsistency.
The cuts on the legs.
Yeah. The right leg of the victim is cut neatly at the joints. The hip, the knee, and the ankle. 3 pieces. But the left leg is only cut into 2 pieces. It's an interrupted pattern.
And the lead investigator, Detective Laguerta, immediately jumps to his standard police conclusion.
She assumes the killer was interrupted.
Right. She thinks someone startled him while he was cutting. He panicked, threw the body in the bags, and dumped it.
She starts launching this massive, resource-heavy manhunt for a non-existent witness who might have startled him.
But Dexter, viewing this through the lens of a fellow predator, sees right through that logic.
He looks at the meticulous, beautiful wrapping of the severed limbs in those plastic bags.
He knows that if a killer is startled and panicking, adrenaline takes over.
Exactly. They don't take the time to beautifully gift wrap the pieces, seal them tightly, and leave zero forensic trace evidence behind. The killer wasn't interrupted.
The killer was unsatisfied.
Yes. Dexter knows this in his bones because he just felt the exact same way with his messy Jaworski kill.
He recognizes the feeling of a ruined artistic vision.
Dexter theorizes that the killer just got bored. He was sectioning the body, slicing the left leg, and suddenly realized this isn't it. The thrill is gone. This isn't the artistic statement I want to make.
So he dribbled to a stop, packed it up neatly, and dumped it, looking for a new artistic direction.
What's fascinating here is the evolution of the serial killer's signature.
Yes, the difference between MO and signature.
Can you break that down?
Sure. The modus operandi, the MO, is what a killer does to commit the crime and get away with it, like freezing the body. But the signature is what the killer does to fulfill their psychological need.
So this killer is making art.
Yes. And Dexter, recognizing that artistry, realizes this killer is going to strike again soon, not out of rage, but because he needs to perfect his new ritual.
And here is where Dexter violates his own rules. He is thrilled by it.
He's captivated.
He actually says he doesn't want the cops to catch this guy too soon. He wants to watch him work.
He is experiencing something dangerously close to emotional involvement.
Which directly violates the code of Harry. Harry taught him to be a lone wolf. Avoid emotional involvement, because emotion leads to mistakes.
But the paradox of Dexter's existence is that to survive in the daytime, he has to pretend to be emotionally involved all the time.
He has to maintain his disguise.
He refers to himself as a near-perfect hologram, Which brings us to the fascinating and frankly disturbing way he uses the people in his life as camouflage.
If this new bloodless killer is communicating through perfectly wrapped body parts, Dexter is communicating his normalcy through his carefully crafted human relationships.
It's all a performance.
Let's look at how he curates this hologram, starting with his romantic life. Dexter goes on a date night, and the woman he chooses to date is Rita. I want you to explain why Rita is the perfect target for him, because it's a very dark reflection on how predators operate.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, Rita is a masterclass in predatory camouflage.
She really is.
She is a woman who has survived severe, horrific trauma. She was married to a drug-addicted, abusive brute who beat her, broke her bones, and infected her with diseases.
Such a tragic backstory.
She eventually escaped, and the ex-husband is in prison. But as a result of this extended trauma, Rita is psychologically fragile, hypervigilant, and entirely uninterested in physical intimacy.
She equates sex and vulnerability with violence and pain.
Exactly. She just wants a safe, quiet, undemanding companion.
And Dexter realizes this makes her the absolute perfect girlfriend for a sociopath.
Because Dexter has no interest in sex either, but for a completely different reason.
Right. He finds the whole concept of human intimacy messy, undignified, and sweaty. In his internal monologue, he literally thinks sex among the undead when considering it.
He's repulsed by it.
So he is thrilled to play the role of the sensitive, patient, chivalrous gentleman who is willing to wait forever because he actually wants to wait forever.
It is a dark, parasitic relationship. Rita thinks she has found a man who respects her boundaries, but in reality, she's found a man who lacks the capacity to want anything from her.
He is using her trauma to hide his own emptiness.
It provides him with a bulletproof alibi of normalcy. Look at Dexter. He has a girlfriend. He goes on dates.
But the dynamic with Rita's children, Aster and Cody, is where Dexter's psychology actually shows a fascinating crack in the armor.
Yes, Aster is 8, Cody is 5, and these kids are deeply damaged.
They are hypervigilant, withdrawn. They watch their parents try to kill each other. And Dexter has this bizarre, genuine fondness for them.
He brings little Cody a roll of Necco wafers, knowing the kid is so traumatized he won't eat them until Dexter leaves the room.
He speaks to them quietly, on their level, and the kids stare at him, not with fear, but with this strange, silent recognition. What is happening there?
In developmental psychology, traumatized children often develop an acute sensitivity to the emotional states of adults around them. It's a survival mechanism to predict abuse.
So they can read him.
Yes. When Aster and Cody look at Dexter, they don't see the normal guy hologram that fools everyone else. They sense his utter detachment.
But here is the profound part. Dexter states that he wouldn't care if every human in the universe suddenly expired. But he cares about these kids.
Why do you think that is?
Because Dexter recognizes his own origin story in them. He was a traumatized child left in blood. He senses their damage.
And on some unspoken level, the children sense that Dexter, the monster, is actually a safe harbor from the chaotic human monsters they have known.
They trust him because he doesn't operate on unpredictable human emotions like rage or jealousy. He's a monster, but he's a reliable monster.
Exactly. They know exactly what they're getting.
It is fascinating. And then there is the only person Dexter might actually feel something resembling affection for, his foster sister, Dexter Morgan.
Deborah is Harry's biological daughter. She is a cop, desperate to live up to her father's legacy.
But when we meet her, she is stuck in the Vice Bureau, and she is miserable.
She is young and gorgeous, which the Vice Squad is exploiting ruthlessly.
They have her standing out on the Tamiami Trail in a neon pink tube top, spandex shorts, and fishnet stockings, acting as bait for prostitution stings.
She calls it her Hollywood hooker outfit.
She hates the degradation of it, and she desperately wants a transfer to homicide to do real police work.
And because of that desperation, she relies heavily on Dexter.
She knows he has these uncanny, brilliant hunches about crime scenes.
She begs him for help, please, Dex, to feed her clues off the record so she can solve the hooker murders and earn her way into homicide.
She doesn't know he's a serial killer, but she implicitly trusts his dark insight.
But she is up against a massive political roadblock. Detective Migdia Lagerda.
Oh, Lagerda. She is the lead investigator on the hooker murders.
She is highly ambitious, politically savvy, incredibly well-dressed.
And according to Dexter's observations, deeply incompetent as an actual detective.
Lagerda is the embodiment of everything Dexter despises about human institutions. She plays politics instead of solving crimes.
There's that scene where she interviews a Guatemalan witness at the dumpster.
Yes, instead of building rapport, she bullies and demeans him in rapid-fire Cuban Spanish until he completely shuts down and stops cooperating.
She cares more about her sound bites on Channel 7 News than the forensic evidence. And she hates Deborah.
She constantly belittles her,
calling her Einstein as an insult to imply Deborah is stupid and only got her job because of her looks.
But simultaneously, and this is where the book is actually quite funny, Lagerda is intensely, inappropriately attracted to Dexter.
She hits on him relentlessly. At one point, she hugs him, rubs her body against him, and reaches for the front of his pants right in her cubicle,
causing Dexter to literally flee in terror because he finds human sexuality repulsive.
It's a brilliant comedic subversion by the author. The terrifying, cold-blooded serial killer is running away in a panic from the sexual advances of a homicide detective.
But looking deeper at this dynamic, Dexter's willingness to help Deborah navigate Lagerda's politics is profound.
He calls himself an alien wearing a human suit, just reading from a script. But when Deb asks for his help, the script breaks.
Right. The Code of Harry demands zero emotional involvement. But Dexter actively violates the code just to help Deborah's career.
He drops clues for her. He nudges her toward the idea of looking for a refrigerated truck. Why does he do that if he is supposedly completely hollow?
Because Deborah represents the legacy of Harry. Dexter's willingness to risk his own safety, to break his conditioning to help her, is the ultimate test of his sociopathy.
Is he truly empty? Or did Harry accidentally plant a seed of genuine familial loyalty in this hollow vessel?
It's a question Dexter himself can't even answer.
And just as Dexter thinks he has this human disguise perfectly managed, he's got the traumatized girlfriend, the ambitious sister, the bumbling detective all figured out. The Tamiami butcher decides to shatter that illusion.
The psychological thriller aspect goes into absolute overdrive here.
It really does, because the killer stops just leaving bodies for the police. He starts a twisted courtship, targeting Dexter directly.
This is where Dexter's rigid compartmentalization begins to break down. When a sociopath whose entire survival depends on control realizes someone else is pulling the strings, decompensation occurs.
The subconscious starts bleeding into the waking mind. It starts with a dream.
A very vivid dream.
Imagine you are someone who prides yourself on total mental icy control. And you have this terrifying nightmare where you are floating like a knife blade over Biscayne Boulevard.
You are flying cold and sharp, homing in on a target.
Dexter wakes up covered in sweat. His hands are clammy. When he goes to the bathroom to wash them, he hallucinates for a split second that the water in the sink is running red with blood.
For Dexter, a hallucination is catastrophic. It means the dark passenger is violently agitated.
Dexter feels a magnetic pull, an absolute certainty that the killer is out there in the night, right at that moment, working. So he gets in his car at 4 a.m.
He instinctively drives to Miami's nightlife district down by the Omni.
He doesn't even know what he's looking for. And then he sees it, a refrigerated truck.
He realizes instantly this is how the killer is transporting the bodies and freezing the cells to stop the blood flow.
And the truck driver seizing. What follows isn't a standard police pursuit. It's a game of cat and mouse.
The killer doubles back, mocking him, and leads Dexter on a high-speed chase over the 79th Street Causeway before disappearing into the night.
The killer is acknowledging Dexter's presence.
And the next day, the killer leaves a public display at a local ice rink.
The police find a severed head sitting right on the ice. But the detail that chills Dexter to the bone is what's in the head's mouth.
It's the rearview mirror from the refrigerated truck.
Detective Lagerda, with her usual surface-level logic, dismisses it. She thinks the ice rink means the killer works there.
But Dexter knows better.
The killer knew Dexter was chasing him in the rearview mirror. Placing it in the victim's mouth is a direct, incredibly private message to Dexter. It says, look at yourself.
It's an invitation.
And then it gets much more intimate and, frankly, terrifying. Dexter goes back to his perfectly neat, highly controlled apartment.
His sanctuary.
He opens his freezer, expecting to find his neatly organized food, and sitting right there on the ice tray is a Barbie doll.
The doll is dressed exactly like the hooker from the dumpster, and it has been severed into pieces.
The home invasion is the ultimate violation.
For a serial killer, their home is the only place the mask can slip. By breaching that sanctuary, the butcher proves he knows Dexter's identity, knows where he lives, and most importantly, knows exactly what he is.
It is an act of psychological dominance.
And the killer's next crime scene is the absolute masterpiece of this twisted courtship.
The police find 3 bloodless, severed heads arranged on a portable workbench at an unfinished construction site.
One head has a rearview mirror in its mouth. Another head has a Barbie doll body placed under its chin.
The third is mounted on a piece of drywall. Now, why a construction site?
Because Dexter just killed Jaworski at a similar construction site a few nights prior.
Yes. It was a messy, rushed kill. The butcher is openly mocking him.
He's saying, I know what you did. I know you were sloppy. Look at my work. Look at the pristine lack of blood. I am the superior artist.
How does a mind like Dexter's process that level of exposure?
His psychological foundation completely collapses. He starts seriously questioning his own sanity.
He knows about psychiatric phenomena like dissociative fugue states and sleepwalking.
He starts to wonder, am I doing this in my sleep?
Is his dark passenger taking the wheel at night, committing these perfect, bloodless murders, and leaving these clues to taunt his waking, rational self?
It is a profound crisis of identity.
It's like looking into a mirror and seeing your reflection wave back at you independently. He is completely unmoored.
And then Deborah brings him the final nail in the coffin.
She managed to find some blurry webcam footage from the arena parking lot the night the head was thrown. Dexter looks at the screen, and the blurry figure of the killer, the posture, the slope of the shoulders, the profile, looks exactly like him.
It is a brilliant psychological teardown.
The butcher is systematically infiltrating Dexter's dreams, invading his apartment, referencing his secret kills, and mirroring his physical appearance.
The butcher is trying to destroy the walls that Harry built. He is stalking the stalker, inviting Dexter to strip off the human hologram suit and embrace his true, monstrous nature.
And this incredible psychological pressure cooker inevitably culminates in a physical confrontation. We reach the ultimate choice, the battle of nature versus nurture.
The climax of this story in the shipping container is a masterclass in tension, because the stakes are simultaneously physical and deeply philosophical.
Dexter is drawn by the whispering in his head, the roaring of the dark passenger, to a shipping container yard at the port of Miami.
He wanders through this maze of metal boxes, guided purely by predatory instinct.
Until he finds the right container. He steps inside and he finally meets the killer face to face.
And the killer is his biological brother, Brian.
It is a stunning revelation. Brian looks just like Dexter, maybe a little thicker from doing prison time, but the eyes are identical.
They share the same dark emptiness.
And they share the exact same origin trauma. They were both toddlers, left sitting in a pool of blood for days when their mother was brutally murdered with a chainsaw.
This is the ultimate clash of nature versus nurture. In criminological theory, there is a constant debate about whether psychopaths are born or made.
Here we have the epigenetic and environmental triggers perfectly isolated.
Exactly. Brian represents pure, uninhibited nature. He was left to the foster system, institutionalized, and his trauma was allowed to bloom into pure, chaotic, sadistic evil.
Dexter represents nurture. He has the exact same dark urges, the same underlying pathology, but he was raised by Harry Morgan.
He was domesticated in a sense, channeled into a controlled vigilante through operant conditioning.
And Brian has set the ultimate stage to force Dexter to choose between those two paths. Because taped to a table in the center of the shipping container, wrapped in plastic exactly like one of Dexter's own victims, is Deborah.
Brian has captured the ultimate symbol of Dexter's human life.
Deborah is the living legacy of Harry. She is the nurture.
And Brian, the biological blood brother, offers Dexter a knife. He says, one for all, both for one.
He invites Dexter to kill Deborah together, to finally shed the exhausting fake human disguise, stop pretending to be a brother to a cop, and bond with his true brother over a shared kill.
The internal tug-of-war inside Dexter at this moment is incredible to read.
The dark passenger is screaming at him to do it. The homicidal urge is roaring like a hurricane. He physically raises the knife over Deborah.
He is practically salivating at the idea of cutting her.
And Deborah is looking up at him, pleading. She says, "Dexter, I'm your sister. What would Daddy say?"
Which is so tragic because she has no idea how close she is to dying.
She thinks Dexter is under some kind of hypnotic spell or being coerced by Brian.
She appeals to his humanity, not realizing he doesn't have any. She appeals to his memory of their father, hoping love will break the spell.
But I want to be very clear here, and this is crucial to understanding the character. Dexter does not spare her out of love.
He doesn't have a sudden rush of brotherly empathy or moral clarity.
No. Dexter looks at Deborah, but in his mind's eye, he doesn't see a beloved sister. He sees Harry's ghostly blue eyes.
He hears Harry's voice whispering the code. You're a good kid, Dex. Choose who you kill. There are plenty of people who deserve it.
It is incredible. The knife tip freezes in midair. The dark passenger cannot push it down because Harry's psychological conditioning is too strong.
Dexter is paralyzed by his programming.
He finally looks at his biological brother, drops the knife, and says, I can't, not Deborah. He refuses.
This raises such an important question about the nature of humanity and conditioning. Dexter proves he isn't completely lost to the chaotic evil of the dark passenger.
But his salvation doesn't come from a place of light or empathy or morality.
No, it comes from a rigidly conditioned code of murder. He doesn't spare her because it's inherently wrong to kill Syme. He spares her because she does not fit the criteria of the code. She hasn't murdered anyone.
It's exactly like a computer program crashing, because a new command contradicts its core operating system. Error 404. Victim does not meet parameters.
He chooses the illusion of his human life over the reality of his monstrous brother.
Brian is disappointed. A scuffle ensues, and Brian escapes into the night, leaving Dexter and Deborah alive.
Which leaves us with a deeply unsettling resolution. The monster remains a monster. He just stays securely within his designated father-approved boundaries.
And that brings us to the takeaways from this incredible deep dive. What Jeff Lindsay has done with Darkly Dreaming Dexter is present a completely inverted hero's journey.
Dexter is not a misunderstood anti-hero who secretly has a heart of gold under a gruff exterior.
He is a predator who uses the rules of humanity to survive. He views normal human interaction, dating Rita, comforting Deborah, chatting with Vince Muskoka as an exhausting theatrical performance.
Yet, as readers or viewers, we root for him.
We do.
Because his code, however twisted its origins, aligns with our societal sense of justice. He kills the people who slip through the cracks of the legal system. He takes out the garbage that the police can't touch.
We excuse his lack of humanity because his actions benefit the herd.
But if we connect this to our own lives, and thankfully we aren't serial killers, there is a profound relevance here.
We all wear masks. Every single one of us.
Absolutely. We all have codes or social contracts we adhere to in order to fit into society.
We suppress our darker, more chaotic, or simply more selfish impulses just to get through a workday, or a tense family dinner, or a frustrating commute.
We play the role of the polite coworker, the patient parent, the supportive friend, sometimes when we feel entirely hollow or exhausted inside. We perform normalcy.
We curate our holograms. We smile politely at the Vince Masukas in our offices who make bad jokes. We navigate the Laguertas in our corporate politics who value ambition over competence. And we try to keep our own dark passengers, our angers, our jealousies, our petty vindictiveness locked in the trunk.
Which leaves us with a final provocative thought.
Think about Dexter dropping that knife above Deborah.
If his only reason for saving his sister was a learned rule, a conditioned response planted by a cop, rather than genuine human love, does the motivation actually matter if the outcome is good?
That is the ultimate question. If doing the right thing is just an act, if we are only polite because society demands it, if we only don't strike out because we fear the consequences or because we were programmed to follow the rules, are we anything more than the sum of our conditioned responses?
If the mask prevents the monster from causing harm, does it matter if the face beneath the mask is empty?
Something for you to mull over the next time you smile politely at someone who cuts you off in traffic. You look through that microscope at the fabric of our society, expecting to see the biology of genuine human empathy and connection. But if you adjust the focus, maybe you just see a complex set of rules keeping the void at bay. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Stay curious, stay observant, and maybe keep an eye on your own dark passenger.